we are dancing, dancing, we are dancing, dancing, we are dancing, dancing in the led the way by John Lewis. Lord, yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. My wish for everyone here is that we somehow find a way to stay in our hearts at peace, radiating love, and taking the action that needs to be taken.
Hey everybody, let's give another round of applause to Jonas Mangrum. What a way to start a rally. Some fantastic music, some inspiring music. Get this thing off on the right foot. I'm Tom O'Donnell. I don't know why, but I'm the MC. And so you get to listen to me occasionally. This is put on by Jefferson County Indivisibles. Give them a big round of applause. A lot of help from, I think, other organizations. And be sure that you go to the table, sign their sheet. If you're not getting their emails, sign up for that. There's a bunch of flyers on other events and things you should know going on. I want to say thanks to Tim Britton. There he is. For setting up the signs. And you should know that what you're doing tonight is a bigger version of what's happening every Thursday night at 4 o'clock right here on the square in Fairfield for the Jefferson County Indivisibles. You're seeing this in county after county in Iowa, where groups are coming out at least once a week to raise their voices against the tyranny of this administration and make themselves heard. Henry County, 12 o'clock every Sunday at the courthouse, Keokuk, 600 block of Main Street, First Street. You'll find them at any rate. They're also at 1 o'clock on Sundays, and then 4 o'clock here on Thursdays here in Fairfield. So really appreciate y'all being here, and they've asked me to make a few comments. So here it goes. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when I see what Trump and his gang are doing in the country, it's almost like they're following a script given to them by Vladimir Putin. Putin despises our leadership in the world. At one time, the USSR was on par with the US co-superpowers. But with the disintegration of the Soviet Union and the weakness of their economy, Russia's become a second-rate nation. Putin wants us to follow, and we're sleepwalking into his trap, destined to decline and fall into mediocrity. Our people in the world will be poorer if Trump succeeds. So here's a recipe for failure. If you want to be a second-rate nation, decimate your research infrastructure. Wreck the civic institutions and agencies that have served your citizens for decades. Hire people not for their skills, but for their loyalty to the great leader. Forsake your world leadership role and withdraw into Fortress America. If you want to be a second-rate nation, slander intellectuals, attack your centers of knowledge, and exile your experts. Destroy trade and penalize your people with tariff taxes. Create chaos with unpredictable, nonsensical policies based on your gut feelings. Undercut the courts and install toadies for judges. Yes. If you want to be a second-rate nation, create doubt in elections and castigate officials who stand by their results. Mock the media, punishing those who dare question you and rewarding the bootlickers. Give power to wealthy elites to run government as they see fit, that is, to make themselves richer. Treat newcomers with hostility, calling them dangerous enemies and alienating hardworking, talented people who want to stay here. If you want to be a second-rate nation, elevate your ethnic group and religion and play the victim of manufactured grievances. Demonize teachers, turn schools into ghettos, and funnel money into educating the ruling elite. treat women as property and people of color as unworthy of the rights others take for granted. Create a caste of people who live on a razor's edge of medical bankruptcy and sacrifice their old age on capitalism's altar. If you want to be a second-rate nation, starve poor children, depriving them of the ability to grow and flourish into productive citizens. Yank away rights and health care from those who don't conform to your puritanical categories of gender. Lie to your people, cheat your friends, line your pockets and break the law as your party cheers you on. Friends, we're here today to mark the death of a champion for liberty. John Lewis urged us to make good trouble. But can good trouble counter bad trouble? The bad trouble that wrecks a nation and impoverishes its people? A nation that sends armed, anonymous agents to kidnap mothers and children in the streets? Will our leaders hear our pleas? Or must we face violence, suffer broken skulls, bruises, bullets, and batons? Are we willing to sacrifice as John Lewis, Martin Luther King Jr., James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and many others did? The fates of these martyrs shocked the nation into action, but today we seem beyond shock. So gird yourself, prepare, because despots never yield power willingly. It is up to us. Thanks. All right, next it's my pleasure to introduce somebody I've become friends with recently, John McCurley. John is a PhD expert on labor and was working as compiling oral histories of labor, the labor movement in Iowa. So John's going to speak to us on labor and work shortages and unions. Come on up, John.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much. So again, hi, my name is John McCurley. I've lived here since 2010, I think. And during that time, I worked at something called the University Bible Labor Center, which is the only institution in the state that's focused on studying and connecting with the problems of working Iowans, union members in particular. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out a little bit. So, unfortunately, as our governor quite rightly said at one point, she did Doge before Doge. So I'm also one of those experts who got kicked out of a job but before that movement went to the White House, and again at a real cost, in the sense that there was one institution that was focused on the interests of working people, which I think we can all realize are of significant import right now. And that institution is a shadow of what it used to be. But the main reason I'm here is to talk to you not so much about that, as to talk to you about how the labor movement relates to this larger story. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to distill it to one basic idea, which is that inherent in the notion of the labor movement is that democracy doesn't live in voting booths, right? I think many of us might look back fondly on an idea that we could go once or twice a year and elect people who we were confident would represent our interests fairly and in regard to the best information. If that ever existed, it doesn't exist now, obviously. But the lesson of the labor movement for all of us, whether you have been a member or not, and of course today with the labor movement being below 10% of those people who have jobs, most of us probably haven't. But the genius of the labor movement, and one of the reasons that the Trump administration and its allies are damned and determined to destroy it, is that it teaches that democracy can and should live in every aspect of our lives, right? Doesn't live in the voting booth. It can live at work, right? And by extension, it can live in the family, right? It can and should live everywhere. But it can only live everywhere. Again, this is another lesson of the labor movement, if we work at it every day, right? We can't offload. Again, if there was ever a time where we could offload the responsibilities of democracy, we cannot do that now. Every day, if we are not doing things like this, we need to be talking to our neighbors, right? Just like in a unionized workplace, we are talking to our fellow workers about what their problems are. What are the problems of your neighbors? Do you know them? If you don't, find out, right? And once you know, take another lesson from the labor movement. Get together, right? Collective action. Whether it's in a forum like this, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your workplace, we have to be building every moment of the day right now, little groups, whether we call them unions, whether we call them associations, whether we call them friends. We need every one of those groups together, because the best way to organize is not individual to individual. It is organized group to organized group, right? The bad guys know this, and they're trying to make it harder for us to form those groups. And they're trying to make it harder for us to find commonalities between us and to organize successfully around those commonalities in order to oppose the bad things they want to do, right? Which means we have to, again, every day and in every way, not let them win. And I'm just going to quickly close on a little biographical note, just to kind of give you a sense for why I think what I think. So I don't sound like it very much anymore, but I'm from Alabama. My parents were they were from Birmingham. And they were very much on not the side of the civil rights movement. They were on the opposite side. I grew up in a household that preached the opposite of the civil rights movement. I know when I look at Trump, when I look at what the Republican Party has become, I see what my parents and my grandparents grew up in, right? Whether they are organizing explicitly around around a white supremacy that is focused on African Americans or not, the same seed of authoritarianism that animated Jim Crow animates them. That is what we were up against, right? And so again, just like with the movement that liberated me, this is why I'm so passionate about it. As I see it, people like John Lewis destroyed that system and allowed me to live a life of freedom too, a mental freedom, outside of the confines of a despicable, evil way of looking at the world that shackled my grandparents, my parents. And we are in a moment where they are trying to put a new kind of authoritarian shackle on this entire nation. That is what we are up against. And so not only for ourselves, but for the future generations, for my kids, your kids, all the kids, everyone, our grandkids, we have to win this because the stakes could not be higher, right? Okay, with that, I'm gonna cede back the remainder of my time to good Mr. O'Donnell.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce another new friend of mine, Casey Conrad from Henry County, Mount Pleasant. And she's a spark plug, I tell you. Casey has the fire in the belly, that's for sure. She's making her way to the stage, and she's going to talk to us about women's rights. Take it away, Casey.
All right.
Okay. Amy Krieger, can you hear me? Yeah. Awesome. Hello, Iowa. I am so grateful and humbled to be here with you today. Today, we gather in the spirit of Congressman John Lewis, honoring the legacy of good trouble, necessary trouble. Yeah? A legacy built on courage, defiance, and the unyielding voice of justice. I've been at this fight for decades. In the 1970s, I stood with countless women and men as we demanded rights to equal pay, access to choice, and recognition in every sphere of our lives. We made important advancements. It was awesome, yeah? But now, those rights are under assault. Statewide, nationwide, everywide. And let me be clear, women's rights in Iowa have been being chipped away at an alarming speed. Yeah? That 6-week abortion ban that took effect last summer is not policy, it's control. Yes, right? Women are forced to seek care hundreds of miles away. They have to leave their own state to get health care, right? Or worse, they go without care at all. Our clinics have been shuttered. It's appalling. Autonomy is slipping away from us. And it's not limited to bodily autonomy. This July 1st, Iowa became the first state to remove gender identity protections from its Civil Rights Act, undoing 18 years of recognition. Transgender and non-binary Iowans can no longer pursue justice, not under state law, not in employment, housing, or public services. This is not acceptable. Simultaneously, Iowa's legislature passed House File 856, signed in May of 2024, barring public institutions from state and local governments to community college from having diversity, equity, and inclusion offices or programs. Even the University of Iowa scrubbed DEI from its website and policies. This erasure removes critical support systems for women, especially those of color and LGBTQ+, whose voices DIE once amplified. This is not okay, right? This is not okay. And these rollbacks are not isolated. They're connected. They reflect a vision of a state turning back toward exclusion, dismantling the structures built for equality, and structures we fought for all those decades ago. But civil rights don't just happen and hold. They're defended and, when necessary, reclaimed. So what should good trouble look like here and now? It's refusing to accept that these rollbacks are normal. It's calling out our elected officials at school boards, the State House, and in the voting booths, most importantly. It's supporting organizations that resist these changes. Planned Parenthood, the ACLU, LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, and all of the local women's networks that we belong to. We have a voice because every right lost calls us to speak louder. Every woman silenced demands we uplift her. Every act of erasure demands that we show up compassionately, boldly, unmovably. Today, I stand here and I ask you to stand with me for our daughters, for our granddaughters, for those every Iowan whose rights once won are being stolen back. Because justice is not a one-off. It is not a done deal. We make it, we protect it, because we create good trouble. And good trouble is necessary for equality. And we will not go quietly. Thank you.
All right, next, we have a friend from Fairfield. Nahum Abagaz is going to speak to us on his experience as an immigrant. Come on up, he's got to give hugs on his way up. That's the kind of guy he is. All right, let's hear it.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody, for having me here. This is a personal story, as you can imagine. All right. So this is called We Carried Ethiopia With Us. If it's not clear, I was born and raised in Ethiopia. You guys hear me okay? Yes. Excellent, okay. So my name's Nahum Abagaz. I was born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I was 7 years old when my family left everything we knew to chase a country we had only heard about in stories, America. At the time, I didn't understand the weight of it. After all, I was just a kid. I thought we were going on a big adventure. I remember landing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It was early autumn. I learned quickly about the sanctity of American lawns when I wandered across our neighbor's yard and was swiftly reprimanded. It made me wonder what this new country truly valued. And as I began to adjust, I also began to understand that this land didn't always know what to do with people like us. People with accents, people with brown skin and unfamiliar customs, people who prayed differently, ate differently, spoke differently, people who just were different. But this story isn't just mine. It's really about my parents. My mother, who once worked as an accountant in Ethiopia, took night shifts on a production line processing pigs. My father, who held a respected government job back home, took work that left his ego calloused and his name mispronounced. They didn't complain. They worked. They endured. They navigated a system that was never built for them. Bureaucracy, paperwork, dead ends, all while raising 3 kids in a land where they were often invisible. And not too long after, they had a 4th kid. We dubbed her the real American. I remember when they began studying for the citizenship test, regular trips to the library or adult school to review the material, anxiety in their eyes as they flipped through questions about the Constitution, all while working to feed their children and keep them safe. They memorized the names of presidents and founding fathers, even though no one had ever asked them to declare their worth. And the day they became naturalized Americans, I'll never forget the look in their eyes. It wasn't relief. It was quiet, hard-earned pride. A moment that said, we made it, but we gave so much along the way. As their eldest son, I carry the tension of those 2 worlds. In Ethiopia, I was Ethiopian. In America, I became African, and then black, and then other. I didn't always know where I fit. But what I knew was that, what I felt was that, I came from people who never stopped believing in a better future. And they passed that belief down to me, whether they said it out loud or not. Today I speak not just with my voice, but with theirs, and with the voices of so many others who have crossed oceans, borders, and languages to build a life, to raise a family, to belong. We didn't just come here. We showed up. We built communities. We worked. We sacrificed. And we still dream. So when I say we carried Ethiopia with us, I mean, we carried our ancestors, our recipes, our memories, our grief, and our unshakable hope. We carried it into classrooms, into workplaces, into voting booths, and yes, even into rallies like this one. Because we still believe in what this country could be, even when it hasn't always believed in us. Thank you for making space today for people like me, for people like my parents, and for the millions whose stories still go unheard. When you march today, do it knowing that behind every sign, behind every chant, there's a story, there's a family, there's a hope that crossed continents, and it's still alive. Thank you.
Next up, Mary Stewart, our friend from Ottumwa. Mary is a powerhouse. She's been an activist for a long time, and she still is, and we really need her. So she's going to talk about hope, community activism, and what we really need, joy.
Right up on it? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to speak today. It's really a pleasure to be here. I am here from Wapello County, along with my cohort of friends from Wapello County as well. I've had a lot of different titles over the years, but I think the thing I'm most proud of, especially over the last 8 to 10 years, is that of community activist. It takes all of us, and it takes all of us all the time to try to make a change in what we see as horribly wrong. Like you, I get up each morning and I am horrified and often terrified by what I see happening around me. I hear a lot of people, they say they cannot believe this is what's happening, and that they never thought things would be this bad. And truthfully, I never doubted for a moment after his first term in office that if he was ever able to regain that office, it would be every bit as bad as any of us thought that it could possibly be. And of course, we see what's happening now. Somebody the other day reminded me of something I had said to them during his last run for office, which I had completely forgotten. But I'd asked them if they would take a yard sign, maybe make a phone call, knock on a few doors. And they declined, giving me an explanation that was very reasonable. And I don't mean to downplay it in any respect. But they declined because they said they were afraid. And that was a very real thing, especially in southern Iowa, where towns are small and communities are close. I understood exactly what they were saying. They were afraid of negative comments from their neighbors and other acquaintances. They were afraid their homes might be vandalized, not just the signs that they would have in the yard. And those were and are very legitimate concerns. And my reply at that time was, if you are afraid now, before he is in office, what will you feel like if he wins? And now we know. So here we are. It's as bad as many of us believed. It's worse than others thought or planned for it to be. And every day is a new horror story. But as grim as things are, there are some very, very positive things happening that I see every day, and I'm sure you do too. And our focus right now needs to be on the positive. So I'm just going to talk about a few things that make sense to me, and hopefully they make some sense to you, or you're able to view them or look at things maybe in a little different perspective. One is personal responsibility. We didn't get here today strictly because of one man. Granted, he has an oversized influence, but a lot of things happened along the way, and we did think that democracy and voting, or democracy, took place in the voting booth. And as you've heard from others, there is a lot more involved with maintaining a vibrant and democratic government than simply that. We need to take some personal responsibility, and that means engaging in the process. It means volunteering and doing something, even when you don't feel like doing it. I know my friends here have heard me say this before, but during the election year leading up to Biden, I invented for myself this 15-minute rule. You know, when you thought you just couldn't go any longer, or make another phone call, or stay on the computer even 2 minutes more, I'd go, I'm just going to give this 15 more minutes, and then I'll be done with this. And quite honestly, once you gave yourself that 15 more minutes, you could say to yourself, but if I just stayed another 5 minutes, I could finish these last few names on the list. So I'm not saying that's something that works for everybody, but it certainly worked for me. And I think, particularly in these times, it's worthy of consideration. There isn't any time to waste right now. It's up to us. Our time is now. We are the solution, and persistence over time is what it will take us to win this fight. Another area I look at a lot is community, and that's what we've got here today. And it's never been more important, never been more necessary. And people are showing up who've never shown up before. People who didn't see any place in the role of activist for them. People that didn't participate in rallies or in demonstrations. They've never shown up or shown up to events. We are a community of support and of action for a cause and for each other. There is strength in numbers. People are reaching out to enlist others to the cause, and we need to expand our circle. You know, even if you bring one more person to the table or to the meeting or to the rally each time, it all adds up, and then we can turn up the volume on our communications. Take a break from Facebook and actually spend some time completing some action each and every day. The other thing that's really important right now is unity. And it's time to link arms not only within a community, but across southern Iowa. There are this whole tier of southern counties. Individually, we're each doing great things. You know, there's a great Indivisible group here. We've got Indivisible in Ottumwa. I'm originally from Centerville, which is a pretty conservative community. And within the last 6 months, they now have an Indivisible group numbering 75 people. I never thought I'd see that happen in Centerville. But you know, here we are. So individually, we're all doing these great things, but when we're together, our voices become louder, the message becomes clearer, and our presence is expanded through having greater numbers. Our messaging needs to be unified. Our message doesn't need to be clever or catchy. It needs to be consistent over time. Ignore the distractions, keep our eye on the goal. I always taught my sons that nobody ever won a race by looking over their shoulder. Have the vision of where you want to go out in front of you and head toward that. My dad, who wasn't a very sophisticated guy, but had a lot of good common sense farm boy training, he always said to me, when I'm out going down the road, I'm not looking out the windshield, or I'm not looking in the rearview mirror. I'm looking through the windshield. That would be my advice to you as well. Just some other little things that I do that other people don't have to, but I would ask you to at least consider this. After he won the first time, I don't say his name. I never say his name out loud. I'm not going to give him more presence in a group or in a community than he takes for himself. And I always print his name, if it has to be said, as DT and all in lowercase letters. I'm not giving him an inch. Every time we use his name, we amplify his message, not ours. And I remember an old rule of politics used to be, you don't use your opponent's name because you're giving them free publicity every time you do it. I also think it's worth noting that we should not adopt his vocabulary. There is no such thing as Doge. There is a renegade group of people who've been allowed to steal our information and been given some authority, but they, in fact, do not exist. That is a whatever. They in no way resemble an organization that would benefit you or me. And there is no big, beautiful bill. There is a budget reconciliation bill that will kill people and will starve people of food and of educational opportunities and medical care and will end their civil liberties and their freedoms. And it's on us not to let that happen. And there is no alligator Alcatraz. There are deportation/concentration camps, and we need to speak about that, say that for what it really is. And I also believe that Donald Trump is one man, and it's okay to talk about what Donald Trump has done and is doing to this nation, but never forget for a moment that that is a movement, a well-planned and well-initiated movement. So it's not just about him. It's about the people who are standing behind him and the people who are giving him the latitude to do what he's done. The Chuck Grassley's, the Joni Ernst, and all the rest of those people. They need to be held responsible. And truthfully, some of these demonstrations should take place in their front yards. Every time we use their terms, we sink deeper into their world. We have to maintain our vision and our reality of what the country is, where people are cherished for whatever they are and for whatever they bring to the table, where empathy and compassion, tempered with fairness and reason, are still the bedrock values of this nation that we hold firm. Mine is just one voice, but every time I show up somewhere, I feel more empowered by being there. And every time I look out and I see faces like yours, I know that I am not alone, and I feel supported, part of a community fighting for a cause. And your presence does that for other people as well. So keep up the fight, keep up the work. Thank you very much.
All right, time to wrap it up. And to wrap it up, we have our new friend, Kyle Shubik. Kyle's an intern with the IDP, a Fairfield native, and he's going to read to us from John Lewis's letter and get us out on a march. Come on up, Kyle.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kyle Shubik. I'm from Fairfield, Iowa, graduated from Fairfield High School, and I'm very proud to be from here. I'm honored to be here today in my hometown, where I was taught the importance of looking out for your neighbors and standing up for them when something is not right. John Lewis believed in something similar, a beloved community where every individual is treated with dignity and respect. Today, I'm an organizing intern with the Iowa Democratic Party, working with leaders and volunteers across the state who believe in a better future for Iowa than the one our current representatives keep voting us toward. I'm here today because I believe in this place, in small towns, in public schools, and in neighbors showing up for each other. I believe that Iowa still matters in shaping the future of our country. But I'm also here because now is the time to stand up. We're seeing rights under attack, voices being silenced, and communities pushed aside. We can't afford to sit back and hope that things get better. We have to speak out and push back right now for our community. But most importantly, we're here today to honor John Lewis, a man who never stopped fighting for what's right. He showed us that politics is about people, about courage, and about action. And before he passed, he left us one final message, one last piece of guidance for those of us still in the fight, and I'd like to share his words with you now. Here is the final letter from John Lewis. While my time here has now come to an end, I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me. You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story when you used your power to make a difference in our society. Millions of people, motivated simply by human compassion, laid down the burdens of division. Around the country, the world, you set aside race, class, age, language, and nationality to demand respect for human dignity. That is why I had to visit Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, though I was admitted to the hospital the following day. I just had to see and feel it for myself that after many years of silent witness, the truth is still marching on. Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I was only 15 years old at the time. I will never, ever forget the moment when it became so clear that he could easily have been me. In those days, fear constrained us like an imaginary prison, and troubling thoughts of potential brutality committed for no understandable reason were the bars. Though I was surrounded by two loving parents, plenty of brothers, sisters, and cousins, their love could not protect me from the unholy oppression waiting just outside that family circle. Unchecked, unrestrained violence and government-sanctioned terror had the power to turn a simple stroll to the store for some Skittles or an innocent morning jog down a lonesome country road into a nightmare. If we are to survive as one unified nation, we must discover what so readily takes roots in our hearts and that could rob Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina of her brightest and best, shoot unwitting concert-goers in Las Vegas, and choke to death the hopes and dreams of a gifted violinist like Elijah McClain. Like so many young people today, I was searching for a way out, or some might say a way in, and then I heard the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on an old radio. He was talking about the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. He said we are all complicit when we tolerate injustice. He said it is not enough to say it will get better by and by. He said each of us has a moral obligation to stand up, and speak out. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state, it is an act, and each generation must do its part to help build what we called the beloved community, a nation and world society at peace with itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic processes are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. You must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a very long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before you. The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitation of others. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate that the way of peace, the way of love and nonviolence is the more excellent way. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring. When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide. Now let's march.